I'm not often here unless it's for a very important occasion. And of course, I'd like to also welcome all of the Life Club members of Royal Aero Club who are here today. Thank you very much for attending, along with the committee members who are here today as well. Thank you for attending. And of course, welcome to ladies and gentlemen from the old Fliers group. I mentioned that we had a number of Life members here, but there's one in particular who I'd like to just acknowledge today. And the club and committee have made a number of decisions about this particular Life member, Mr. Brian Hernan. And Brian is here today with us, and his lovely wife Erica. Today, for those of you who read the Tarmac Topics, you will find an article which goes something like this, and I'll read this just so that I don't miss important information. The Royal Aero Club of WA is very pleased to advise members that one of our 152s will proudly bear the name Brian in recognition of Brian's significant contributions to RACWA over many years in a variety of capacities. Life member Brian Hernan, member number 112, joined the club in 1964 and became the club's first official club captain in 1972. Brian has freely contributed his time and energy to the club from his early member days right through to his present days in retirement. Brian has quietly shared his knowledge and wisdom through his contribution and assistance in all things club, including a club member mentor. Brian has always been able to offer wise words and support to members over all of these years. He's been a fellow contributor and volunteer in the printing and publishing of Tarmac Topics, along with fellow club stalwart and former club president Shirley Atkins OAM. He was a club flight instructor who offered his time at no cost to the club over weekends to the benefit of members. And for those of you who may recall, in the late 60s when Brian was very generous with his time, it was a time when the club was going through difficult financial times it's contributions such as Brian's that have actually allowed the club to continue and prosper even to this day. He was the fellow instigator and a participant in the annual WALAC competitions, and later, along with John Douglas OAM, who is here today, John, Deputy Controller of ALAC competitions hosted here in Perth. He has been an air trial chief handicapper and fellow judge, and I suspect a chief of tricky questions that were often raised en route that participants had to actually answer along the way. He was an organiser of the 2003 Centenary of Flight celebration in WA. And as a testament to that, Brian actually built a Wright Flyer, which you can see on display here, and will certainly be displaying that in a more prominent location. We thought that was quite appropriate for today. Brian has always also been the unofficial club historian and preserver of the club's history. He has catalogued nearly all aircraft operated by RACWA throughout its operation. Brian, also being well-versed, was the author of a book called Forgotten Flyer, a book charting the story of Charles W. Snook and other pioneer aviators of Western Australia. His story has links to the club, the Royal Aero Club, in its early days at Maylands. So well done to you, Brian, on those in that quarter. And of course, Brian was the co-founder and coordinator of the old Fliers group, the group that is here today. And that thrives and prospers to this day with an aim to preserve the history of aviation by encouraging participation and the sharing of memories with like-minded aviators and non-aviators. I pondered a little bit on Brian, and I thought, perhaps his name is actually Clark Kent, because he's actually done a Superman job in terms of his support over the club over many, many years. And it's in that vein we'd like to thank you, Brian, for your unwavering loyalty, dedication and contribution to the club over many years. It is our honour to dedicate Uniform Whiskey Charlie in your name, and we're pleased to say that the aircraft is actually down below, and later on at your leisure we can go down there and have a look, and it's been accordingly signed-righted, and your moniker is adorned on that aircraft. So thank you very much, Brian, for our wonderful contribution. Okay, so there's just one other announcement that I'd also like to make while I'm here. So the as we were in the mode of dedicating names to aircraft, many of you will remember our former club member Greg Hill. Greg was an avid supporter of the club, long-time member, and unfortunately passed away a number of years ago due to ill health. So it's with great pleasure that I advise members that following the recent acquisition of FCI by the club, we have decided to dedicate or rededicate that aircraft in Greg's memory. Now I'll explain why we've done that. So the club has previously dedicated a Cessna 152 in Greg's name, and while FCI has been on the RACWA flight line for many years, the recent acquisition of the aircraft from the Police Aero Club, or PACWA, has afforded us the opportunity to name the aircraft in his memory. And this is primarily because during Greg's tenure with the Police Aero Club, he was instrumental in sourcing and the acquisition of that aircraft. So it actually goes way back in terms of Greg's involvement in the club. Greg was an early member of both PACWA and RACWA, holding the position of club captain here at RACWA, and was later to become PACWA's, the Police Aero Club's treasurer. Greg, a former WA police officer, joined the service as a cadet around the age of 16, as I think it was, and steadily rose through the ranks to become a detective sergeant and an officer in charge of several sections. Greg was a significant contributor to the heart of both aero clubs, and through his pursuits as an aviator and fellow club member, who unselfishly supported and encouraged both new and old members alike over many years. So thank you, Greg. We are very proud to dedicate FCI in your name. And I'd also like to advise that Greg's brother, Kevin, is here today with us, and there he is, down there as well. So again, we have FCI on display just down below. So later on, after lunch, if you did want to just wander down and have a look at both of those aircraft. But nonetheless, thank you both Brian and Greg, of course, posthumously, for their wonderful contribution to the clubs over the year. And I'll hand back to